Welcome to BL Stories, where romance, drama, and unforgettable boys' love come to life. Love knows no limits, and the best stories aren't always straight. Subscribe now and join our growing BL-loving family. My mouth felt dry. Rita was staring at me, wide-eyed with shock and confusion. Mrs. Beetham still held my hand, her expression firm and composed. She was clearly trying not to draw attention. My eyes flicked around the room. Thankfully, no one else seemed to notice the tension brewing between us. I tried to explain, but no coherent words came out. "Michael, what's happening?" Rita finally asked, her voice low and tense. "Stay out of this, Rita. This is between me and him. Let's talk outside," Mrs. Beetham said calmly, though the edge in her tone was unmistakable. She released my hand and walked toward the back door. I felt the urge to bolt, but that would only make things worse. She was clearly trying to keep things quiet, and I couldn't ruin that by causing a scene. My heart pounded as I followed her out. I wasn't afraid she'd lash out physically. I could hold my own. What scared me more was the possibility that she'd unleash with words. Too many people were around. Too many children. She was already seated on a low stone fence beside a small bed of azaleas. I stood at a safe distance. "Come sit," she said coolly. "We have a lot to talk about." I cautiously sat beside her, never breaking eye contact. I wanted to read her, to catch any hint of her next move. But she was too composed, impossible to predict. "How long have you been involved with my husband?" she asked plainly. I did a quick mental count. About 6 months. We first met in April. "Figures," she muttered. "I'm really sorry if I've caused problems between you two. I was just doing my job." "And that is?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "I was paid to spend time with him." She looked at me strangely, part surprise, part pity. Then, to my complete confusion, she laughed. She laughed so hard tears welled in her eyes. I sat silently, unsure of what exactly was funny. People in the yard looked our way, probably thinking we were sharing a joke. I waited patiently for her to finish. "You should have seen your face," she giggled. "You looked so terrified." I blinked. This wasn't the reaction I had prepared for. "So, you're not angry with me?" "No," she said, still chuckling. "Honestly, I should be thanking you. You might have saved my marriage." "What do you mean?" I asked, the fear in my chest easing into confusion. Jonathan's been tense for years. At first, I thought it was just nerves, but it never improved. Intimacy was rare, and it left me frustrated. "I considered finding comfort elsewhere more than once," she admitted, lifting her ring finger. "Then, in April, something changed. He came home lighter, happier. He laughed more. Tracy enjoyed spending time with him again. And so did I." I listened quietly as she continued. "I suspected something. Thought maybe he was seeing someone, but I never found evidence. No perfume. No lipstick. Nothing. So, I brushed it off, thinking maybe he'd picked up a self-help book or something." She paused, shaking her head with a small smile. "Then last week he told me he was gay. That he'd been seeing someone. A man named Michael." "That would be me," I said, trying not to smile. At first, I was stunned. Then, relief washed over me. Suddenly, everything made sense. His stress, his discomfort with intimacy, even his old-school comments about certain people. We talked it out. "And no, we're not getting a divorce." My brow lifted. "You're staying married, even though he's gay?" "Yes. Tracy loves her dad no matter what. And honestly, Jonathan's always been this way. Now we have Robertson." She winked. I blinked. "Robertson? He's bisexual." I considered the dynamic. Technically, it could work, if everyone involved was on the same page. "Wait, is Robertson also a professional?" "Yes," she said with a smile. "Do you know him? Tall, about 5'10"? Jet black hair, sharp features." Well, yes," she laughed. "We just called him Rob. Or Robert. He doesn't like Robertson, but I think it sounds distinguished." "And you both pay him?" "Yep. That's kind of the arrangement. Maybe. But it works. Honestly, it's more common than people think, I said with a chuckle. She laughed too. Just then, I spotted Rita peeking out from the back door, even more bewildered than before. I waved her over and Brianna gestured for her to join us. Rita walked over cautiously. Why so serious? Brianna teased. Okay, what on earth is going on? Rita asked, looking like she'd had enough surprises for one day. Brianna was just telling me how I saved her marriage, I said casually. Rita's eyes grew wide. What? I used to work in, companionship. I spent time with her husband. Now they have a better understanding. You were a Yora? Rita stuttered. A former one, I corrected, smiling. I'm retiring. Does Swash know about this? She asked seriously. I laughed. He knew the moment I walked into his house. That's why I was there in the first place. You two have a history? Same high school. He hired me, but all we did was talk. We've been reconnecting since. Swash, is he the tall guy with green eyes? Brianna asked with a playful smirk. Yeah. You interested? I joked. I wouldn't mind, she replied. Too bad he's gay, Rita chimed in with a grin, and completely taken by our friend here. Too bad I'm taken, I said laughing. From that moment on, the tension melted. We joked, teased, and shared stories. I told them about Malone, even the dreamy parts, and endured their dramatic swooning. They jokingly called me a lucky companion, but I asked them to drop the label. I was done with that life. Tomorrow was a new chapter. Brianna went inside for the restroom, and Rita rushed back soon after, saying I needed to come in for a surprise. Curious, I followed. Everyone was gathered. Kids were called down from their party upstairs, looking restless but intrigued. Swash and Bradley were seated front and center. Then Brianna walked out with a large cake, topped with sparkling candles. Happy birthday, Bradley, Rita announced. Everyone began singing. Bradley blushed, hiding his face in Swash's chest. Swash looked up and smiled at me. I smiled back, feeling an overwhelming sense of warmth. After the song and cake, Rita brought out a small glass bowl. Inside was a single goldfish. I figured this would be easier to take care of than a puppy, she said, smiling at Swash. Bradley's eyes lit up as he climbed down to see the fish. I crouched beside the other kids, watching the tiny orange swimmer swirl in its bowl. What are you going to name him? I asked gently. Bradley turned toward me, eyes gleaming. Michael, he said proudly. It took a second to sink in. He named the fish after me. I smiled, touched by the gesture. I tapped the glass, and the little fish swam toward my finger. It was silly, but it felt like a small moment of magic. I ruffled Bradley's hair and stood up, feeling lighter than I had in months. Maybe everything really was starting to fall into place. We left Rita's house late that evening. After the last guest had gone, we stayed behind to help clean up. Bradley sat on the dining table, completely absorbed in watching his new goldfish swim in its bowl. Meanwhile, Emily cheerfully waved goodbye to the friends she'd made that day. I had a feeling that school drop-offs were going to feel a little different from now on. Some of the parents had finally started warming up to each other. The drive home was short. Rita assured us she could handle the rest of the cleanup, so we let her. Back at the apartment, Bradley carefully placed his fish bowl right in the center of the kitchen counter. You'll have to pick up some fish food tomorrow, I reminded Swash. Already handled, he replied, holding up a small bag I hadn't noticed before. Rita gave me this. Can I feed him now, Daddy? Bradley asked, reaching for the bag eagerly. Sure, Swash smiled. But just a little. We don't want him getting too full. Bradley beamed, then hurried back to the kitchen. I watched him with a quiet smile. He was going to love taking care of that fish, and honestly, it couldn't have come at a better time. Having something to focus on would bring him comfort after I left. I glanced at Swash and gave him a soft smile. I guess this is it. What do you mean? He asked. My last night here. I need to get back to my life. Swash paused. Will you come visit? At least once in a while? Definitely, I replied, turning toward the kitchen, where Bradley was gleefully dropping food around the bowl, watching the fish swim toward each little piece. It looked like he was giving it a workout, maybe to keep it in shape. Bradley's going to miss you. I'll miss him too, I said quietly. I noticed he didn't mention how he felt about me leaving. Maybe that was for the best. Swash deserved someone uncomplicated. Someone who could love him fully and freely. I pushed the thoughts away and made my way to the kitchen. It was time to say goodbye. Brad. He looked up at me with a big smile. I have to go now. See you tomorrow, he chirped. I let out a soft laugh. He was used to me leaving and showing up the next day. I'm not coming back tomorrow, buddy. He blinked, the smile fading just a little. Why not? I need to go back home. Will I see you again? Of course. I'll visit whenever I can. He looked down at the floor. I gently lifted his chin so he could look at me. Hey, I'll always be your friend. Always. His eyes welled up, and then he wrapped his arms around my neck. A real hug. I held him tightly in return. My chest tightened. It really was hard to say goodbye. I'm going to miss you, he whispered. I'll miss you too, kiddo. More than you know. He pulled back and gave a little sniff. I ran a hand through his gold-streaked hair. Hey, you're 5 now. You're a big boy. And big boys don't cry, remember? I smiled, though my own eyes were stinging. He smiled back bravely. I stepped away from the counter and walked past Swash, who had silently watched the whole thing unfold. I went into the guest room and picked up my phone. I glanced at the closet filled with clothes, but I didn't bother packing. I'd leave them. Except the Lanvin jacket I had on. It fit like a dream. When I came out, Swash was still standing in the same spot. Let's go, I said simply, and we headed out. The ride was quiet. The city lights shimmered outside the window, and for once, I felt connected to them. Not like some forgotten soul scraping by, but like someone with purpose. Someone who mattered. Even Brianna's story made me feel proud. It's not every day you help someone fix their marriage. The street signs started to look familiar again, and rainbow-colored banners flashed by as we entered Boys Town. Where's your apartment again? Swash asked. I gave him the directions. I didn't mind him knowing where I lived. I wasn't planning on inviting him in, and I didn't expect him to ask either. He parked and I stepped out. Thanks for the ride, I said as I walked toward the front door. Wait. I turned around, half expecting him to say something dramatic. He got out of the car and walked up to me. The house key. Oh, right. I fumbled through my pocket and handed it to him. I won't be needing this anymore. Thanks for everything. It's been quite a week. Yeah, I smiled. It really has. I turned toward the door again, but he called out. Hey, don't I even get a goodbye hug? I rolled my eyes playfully. Fine. I hugged him and he hugged me back. Tight, warm, sincere. Then, without warning, he pressed a gentle kiss to my lips. Take care of yourself, all right? I'll try, Mum, I teased, laughing. It's rough out here in the real world. We let go, and he started backing away toward the car. I watched him and hoped he wouldn't trip on the curb. I kind of hoped he would, just to get a laugh. Don't be a stranger, Mike. I waved and turned to enter my building. It was only once I closed the door behind me that I fully processed the kiss. And felt nothing. Strangely, that felt like a relief. Because now I knew my heart belonged to Malone. Back in my apartment, everything felt fresh again. Familiar. I kicked off my shoes and collapsed onto the bed, laughing quietly to myself. Tomorrow I'd resign. I'd call Dorian and Emmett and do my last shift at the station. After that, they'd have a week to figure out who'd take over. Then I'd start job hunting. Maybe revisit a few of the old offers I once turned down. For the first time in a long while, I had a plan. Malone was going to be so proud. And I wasn't going to do anything to mess that up. I rolled over and let sleep take me. I woke up at 7:50 a.m. A little late, but no big deal. I reached for my phone. It was still off. I had charged it overnight but forgot to turn it back on. I powered it up, probably had missed calls and messages, but I didn't check. Not yet. After a long, satisfying shower and slipping into a clean outfit, fitted jeans, a soft tee, and the same Lanvin jacket, I stepped outside and called Emmett. Hello. Michael. What happened to your phone? Sorry, battery died. Anyway, I'm heading to the station. I need to talk to you, or Dorian. The pause. You're finally quitting, huh? Yeah. It's time. I actually quit last week, he said. Dorian's gonna be thrilled for you. Really? I thought he'd be disappointed. We've all been hoping you'd find someone and move on. You always seemed a little distant. Who is it, by the way? It's not Swash, is it? Nope. It's Malone. I smiled. I'll tell you everything later. You sound different. Happier. I'll let the guys know you're back. Thanks. See you later. Bye, Ham. I laughed and hung up. Once the cab dropped me off, I went straight inside. Something was different. The chair had changed, bigger, more comfortable. New bed sheets too. Someone had definitely been staying here recently. I sat at the desk and opened the admin page. As expected, no new requests. I skimmed the schedule. Rob was fully booked through Sunday. I chuckled to myself. He was definitely making bank. I idly browsed the internet, ending up on an article about sperm whales on National Geographic. That's when I heard laughter outside the office door. A second later, someone walked in. I turned around slowly, curious about who it might be. What I saw made my breath catch. It wasn't because he was especially attractive. It was because he looked exactly like me. The guy turned to lock the door, phone still at his ear. Yeah, I'll be there in an hour. Bye. He hung up, shoved his phone into his pocket, then turned around and locked eyes with me. There was a long, stunned pause before he finally said it. Well, this is awkward. There's a difference between someone saying, "You look like that guy," and standing face to face with someone who could be your clone. I kept staring at the stranger who could only be Jeff. He didn't seem the least bit shocked to see me. Calmly, he crossed the room and sat on the bed. I had already swiveled around in the desk chair to face him. I still couldn't believe what I was seeing. Aside from me being slightly tanner, a bit more muscular, and his eyes being just a shade darker, we were nearly identical. "Hey, bro, long time no see," he said casually. I blinked rapidly. That voice, it was like listening to a slightly raspier version of myself. Like me when I was just getting over a sore throat. "What did you just call me?" "Oh, don't act surprised. We're twins." I was glad I was sitting down. If I had been standing, my legs might have given out. My heart was racing. I continued to stare at him. It was impossible to deny. We looked far too alike. But what shook me more was how unfazed he was about it, like it wasn't a big deal. "I'm guessing your parents never told you." I swallowed. My mouth had gone dry. "Told me what?" "We were separated when we were 3. Our biological parents passed away. They named their 2 best friends as guardians, your mom and my dad. I was raised in Milwaukee. You were in Springfield. They decided not to complicate things with visitation or joint custody, so they kept us apart." He shrugged. "Seriously, you didn't know any of this?" "No. I mean, what?" I was in too much shock to react. Who could prepare for a moment like this? Learning I was adopted, that my real parents had died, and that I had a twin brother sitting in front of me who had once been involved with my current boyfriend? Where was the hidden camera crew? This had to be some kind of elaborate prank. "You okay?" Jeff asked. "Don't call me bro," I muttered. "Alright, chill. I just thought you'd be happy to see me, that's all." He took another sip from the can of Sprite he'd pulled from the fridge, looking at me like he was waiting for me to calm down. And honestly, I needed a minute. Everything I thought I knew had just collapsed. I was adopted. My biological parents were gone. The people I had known as my mom and dad had never told me the truth, and they died while looking for me. And now, my long-lost twin sat casually drinking soda in my apartment, apparently unbothered by any of it. The resemblance was uncanny. It wasn't just looks. We had the same stiff posture, the same narrowed eyes when confused, the same skeptical frown. I couldn't even blame Malone for confusing us. And that's when it hit me. "Malone," I said under my breath. "What was that?" Jeff asked, raising an eyebrow. I didn't answer. My brain was already spiraling. How had I been so blind? Of course, Malone had feelings for Jeff. I was just a stand-in. That would explain everything. The whirlwind affection, the offer to move in after only a week. It was all just emotional transference. And he never once mentioned Jeff, never warned me, never explained. But then again, I remembered the first time I stayed over. I had gotten up to use the bathroom, and Malone had murmured, half asleep, "Jeff, don't go." At the time, I brushed it off as sleep talk. Now, it felt like a slap in the face. My heart was caving in. The ground beneath me had shifted again. My past was a lie. My present was a replica. My entire life felt like a knockoff of someone else's. And before I even realized it, I was crying. "Wait, are you crying?" Jeff leaned in, looking genuinely surprised and concerned. Wow, I didn't expect that. I quickly wiped my face. I didn't even know why I was trying to hide it. Maybe I didn't want to look weak in front of him. Maybe there was some unconscious twin rivalry already forming. "I'm fine," I sniffed. "It's okay," he said softly. "I cried too when they told me." I looked at him again. His expression was softer now. He reached out and gently touched my shoulder. "I'm Jeff, by the way." "I know. And I know you know who I am." He chuckled. "What makes you say that? You're in my apartment on a Monday morning. Whoever gave you the key must have warned you." Honestly, I wasn't told much. But yeah, I knew who you were. My dad told me about you. We sat in silence for a few minutes. I was still trying to process everything. It felt like my whole identity was being redefined in real time. I thought about that abstract painting at Swash's place, the one with all the constantly shifting lines. That was me now. Always changing. Always unsure. My phone rang suddenly, jolting me back to the present. I picked it up and tried to sound normal. "Hello." "Hey Mike, it's Alex," came a familiar voice. "Just checking in. Haven't heard from you in forever." "I'm alright. Just sitting at the station. The usual." "Perfect. We'll be there in about an hour." "What? Nobody's working today?" "Emmy convinced us all to call in sick. And thank goodness we don't work in the same place. We wanted to see you. It's been like 2 weeks since we had time to catch up." I smiled. "Well, whenever you guys get here, I'll be around." We hung up and I turned back to Jeff. Somehow, just being in his presence was starting to feel normal. He finished his Sprite and let out a loud burp. "That's disgusting." "I know." He grinned. "So, why'd you do it?" "To mess with you. We're twins, not clones." "Well, technically we are natural clones," he said matter-of-factly. "Identical twins come from the same zygote. It splits into 2 embryos early in development. Genetically, we're almost exactly alike." I blinked. "You're a doctor?" He laughed. "Nope. Medical research assistant. I studied human physiology." "You already have a degree?" "You're 20. Graduated high school at 17. Valedictorian. College took 3 years." I fought a smile. Apparently, academic overachievement ran in the family. "So where do you work?" "Lurie Children's. I love working with kids." I smiled at that. We had more in common than I thought. Including, well, our taste in men. "What's your favorite color?" I asked, curious. "Gray." "You?" "Beige. I like that it's kind of neutral." "Music?" "Metal. Avant-garde and punk." "Nice," he smiled. "I'm starting to get into that." "Sports?" "No thanks. I like tennis." "Watching or playing?" "Both." He tilted his head. "Look, we can keep playing 20 questions or we can just talk." "Sorry. It's just 20 minutes ago, I thought I was an only child. Now I'm looking at my biological mirror." Jeff chuckled. "I get it. I've known about you for years. I was kind of upset that I never got to meet you. But now that I have, it feels good. It's no longer just some bedtime story. What do you do anyway?" I hesitated for a moment. "I'm a thief service worker. But I'm retiring today." "Oh, you work with Jason? You know him?" "He's my boyfriend." I stared at him. Everything clicked. That's why Jason had been so desperate to see me. He had found someone who looked just like me. "How long have you two been together?" "Almost a month. We met at a bar." He hugged me and called me Mike in front of my friends. It was awkward. Took a while to convince him I wasn't you. But after that, we clicked. I'm not sure if it was me or the resemblance. But he's amazing. He smiled warmly. I was so scared when he was in the hospital. I couldn't visit much because of work, but I had a friend at St. Joe's keeping me updated. Jason's out? When? Saturday evening. I shook my head. No one told me. Probably because your phone's been off. Jason called everyone. Even Robert. I laughed. Robert? He never calls anyone unless it's urgent. When did you come here? I asked. Looks like you slept over. Last night. Nate didn't mind. He and Jerry went out for drinks. We watched the station for a while. Nothing exciting happened. There was a loud knock at the door. Jeff stood up from the bed and opened it. Jason stumbled in quickly, barely acknowledging us before rushing into the bathroom. We heard the unmistakable sound of rushing water followed by a long, exaggerated sigh of relief. We both burst out laughing at the same time. A moment later, Jason emerged, sheepishly smiling. Okay, I really want to kiss someone, but I'm not sure which one of you to pick. Doesn't really matter, I said dryly. You've kissed both of us before. Jeff raised an eyebrow and turned toward me. Before either of us could say more, Jason leaped onto the bed, playfully tackling Jeff. The two wrestled for a few seconds before Jason pinned him down, grinning as he kissed his cheek. Jeff laughed, the sound eerily familiar. How'd you know who I was? Jeff chuckled as Jason finally let go. Michael's a bit more blunt, Jason replied with a smile. It's part of his charm. So, I'm guessing you two have officially met. We have, I said, returning his smile. Jason looked thinner and a little pale, but otherwise, he was still the same. He sat beside me and gave my shoulder a friendly nudge. I kept hoping you'd come see me in the hospital. I tried to reach you. I wanted you to hear about Jeff from me. I didn't want to tell anyone else until I told you. I came a few times, I replied. But things were complicated. I'm sorry I couldn't be there more. Your brother did stop by, though. Yeah, that surprised me. I think he's finally getting over the whole me being gay thing. I didn't even realize he had a problem with it. He talked to me just fine. Well, he wouldn't avoid someone just for that, but he's had strong opinions in the past. I like you just the way you are, Jeff said from the bed. I like me too, Jason replied before leaning in to kiss Jeff again, this time more passionately. Jay, I interrupted, a little uncomfortable. Jason looked up, suddenly remembering I was still in the room. Oh, sorry. I guess this is a bit awkward. It's definitely something watching someone who looks just like me kissing you. Jeff smirked. Come on, Jason, let's make it extra awkward. Nope. I groaned, cutting him off. This is weird enough already. Doesn't it bother you? I mean, we look almost identical. Not really. You feel like completely different people to me, Jason said. Nice try, I said with a half smile. Jason laughed, and both he and Jeff sat up. I glanced between them. So, Jeff, how did you get time off work? Research can be unpredictable. Sometimes I'm overloaded, other times I'm just waiting on data. Honestly, I should be asleep. But someone wanted quality time. Please never say quality time like that again, I muttered. He laughed, and I couldn't help but join him. Jason wrapped his arm around Jeff and kissed his forehead. The way they looked at each other made it clear how deeply they cared. We started talking more casually about how they met, their different versions of the same events, and Jeff's life. I shared parts of my own story, including the deaths of the people I once believed were my parents. Somehow, it didn't hurt as much this time. Maybe because I knew the truth now. Or maybe I had told it so many times that the sting had faded. The door opened again, and Alex, Emmett, and Robert stepped in. There were hugs, jokes, and laughter all around. Oddly, everyone welcomed Jeff as if he'd always been part of the group. Maybe it was easier for them to accept someone who looked like me. Twice, calls came through the station, but they were for the newer staff. Somewhere in the middle of the chaos, Jason and Jeff went out to get lunch for everyone. The rest of us shifted topics and started talking about Dorian's wedding. Alex teased Emmett about his overly specific preferences, Robert talked about their trip to New York, and I just listened, happy that they were happy, even if I felt a little left behind. So, who's the mystery guy pulling you away from us? Emmett teased, grinning. I'm guessing it's that Malone guy, Robert said casually. I blinked, remembering he already knew. Yeah, I admitted. Just saying the name made my chest tighten. I felt foolish for how much I cared. What's wrong? Alex asked, concerned. You're not exactly subtle. I sighed. They deserved the truth. Is Jeff's ex. The room fell silent. Emmett looked down at the floor, and Alex just stared. So, Robert said as if that settled it. Don't you get it? Emmett snapped. Malone might be using Mike as a replacement. Oh, that must feel awful, Robert said. His blunt honesty was not helpful. Robert, just stop talking for a bit, Emmett said, visibly frustrated. He turned back to me. I'm sorry, Mike. That's a lot to deal with. Robert muttered something under his breath about the word deal, but Alex elbowed him before he could say more. What do you think? Alex asked gently. Do you think Malone actually cares about you? I don't know, I said honestly. I think he does. I want to believe he does. But I can't help wondering if he's still hung up on Jeff. I mean, we look alike, but we're not the same. Still, every time I assume the worst, he proves me wrong. Maybe this is just me being paranoid. Emmett broke the silence. Are you going to tell Jeff? I guess I have to. I don't want things to get awkward between us. And he's with Jason now, so it shouldn't be a big deal, right? Right on cue, the door opened again. Jason and Jeff walked in, laughing and carrying bags of food. They handed out the meals, fried chicken, sides, drinks. Everyone dug in happily. I picked at my food, the weight of the upcoming conversation pressing on my shoulders. Eventually, Alex and Emmett stood up. We've got to run, Alex said, nudging Robert to follow. Emmett gave me a subtle glance. I understood, they were leaving to give me space to talk to Jeff. I was grateful but nervous. Jason looked confused at their sudden exit but said nothing. Jeff was focused on licking ketchup off his fingers, completely unaware. Hey Jeff, I said carefully. This is going to sound weird, but just promise not to get too upset. I can't promise anything until I know what this is about. You've had time to move on, and with the whole amnesia thing, I figured it wouldn't be a huge deal. Jeff narrowed his eyes. What are you getting at? I'm dating Malone. Your ex? I didn't know why I said your ex out loud. It was obvious who I meant. Jeff froze, fingers still in his mouth. His expression shifted from surprise to something that looked a lot like fear. What's going on? I asked, feeling a sudden, uncomfortable tension fill the room. Jeff didn't answer right away. Jason, sitting beside him, looked upset, protective. I couldn't tell. Jeff finally pulled his hand away and whispered, almost too quietly to hear. Oh no. Jay? Jay Bear, you need to sit down. Please. My eyes flicked back to Jason, who looked like he was moments away from storming out of the room. His entire demeanor had shifted, filled with urgency and unease. I couldn't understand the sudden change in behavior from either of them. My mind raced through possibilities. Had Jeff told Jason he'd never had any exes? That might explain Jason's irritation and Jeff's visible anxiety. It would make sense in a way. If Jason had been under the impression that Jeff was never romantically involved with anyone before him, and then suddenly learned otherwise, that would definitely be cause for tension. Especially if that anyone was me. But Jason wasn't angry at Jeff, at least not obviously. Maybe he and Malone had some personal history? Maybe something dark? But that didn't seem right either. Jason was one of the kindest people I knew. He didn't hold grudges. He didn't explode. He was safe. Jason finally sat on the edge of the bed. The way the much larger man responded so gently to Jeff's calm voice might have been funny under different circumstances. But I wasn't in the mood to laugh. Jeff, what's going on? I asked, my patience thinning. Why do you both look like you've seen a ghost? Jeff looked at me carefully. Michael, I need you to get on the same mental page with me right now. Drop every other thought. Just focus. I frowned, confused. All right, but I really don't understand. He took a deep breath. Michael, have you and Malone ever been intimate? The question hit me off guard. Yeah, sure, I said, hesitating only slightly. Jeff's eyes widened. A look of concern crossed his face. More than concern, maybe even fear. And oddly, I felt that fear creeping into me too, as if I were absorbing it through osmosis. Were this what people meant about the twin connection? Because I didn't like it. Okay, Jeff said slowly. And, have you ever been the one to start it? You know, like asking, or teasing, or anything like that. I blinked, thinking back. Yeah. I mean, I've asked before, even, insisted, I guess. But what does that have to do with anything? Jeff closed his eyes and winced. His reactions were becoming increasingly erratic, and I was starting to feel more unnerved than confused. What's wrong with that? I asked. What's wrong with being the one to ask? He opened his eyes again, and there was something cautious in his gaze. Michael, do you know what a sociopath is? That made me recoil. What are you trying to say? I asked, tension rising in my voice. Because it sounds like you're accusing Malone of being. I'm just trying to protect you. I stood up. Jeff, I've known you for what, 6 hours? And somehow, you've managed to flip my entire world upside down. I found out my parents weren't really my parents. I've been threatened, twice, by people I don't even know because of you. And now, you're trying to tell me the guy I'm in love with is some kind of, what? Manipulator? Why couldn't you have just stayed gone? Jeff blinked, visibly shaken. Who told you I was dead? The question stopped me cold. I hadn't even thought about it. Malone. Malone told me. As if a switch had been flipped, Jeff suddenly broke into a bitter laugh. I see now. You see what? I asked. I was done playing guessing games. He told you about me, didn't he? Yeah. And I'm guessing he accidentally called my name a few times? More than once. And he probably said I looked like you, but that I died in some random accident. Exactly. Jeff nodded slowly. I told him I had a twin once. And suddenly, everything fell into place. Malone hadn't met me by chance. He'd sought me out, deliberately. Every moment we'd shared, every kind word, every touch, was part of something far more calculated than I'd ever imagined. Michael, Jeff asked gently, have you told him you love him? My stomach dropped. Memories flooded my mind, on the phone, in person. Multiple times. And the first time I said it was. I couldn't finish the thought. My eyes welled with tears. This is beyond messed up, Jeff whispered. So, everything, I said, voice cracking, everything he told me about you dying in a jet ski accident, about his amnesia, it was all made up? Sociopaths are extremely convincing, Jeff replied quietly. They know how to wear a mask better than anyone. And when they want something, they find a way to get it, without you even realizing it. I wiped my eyes. Are you sure about this? I can't afford another misunderstanding. I started thinking through everything again. Even if Malone had been manipulative, there was still the issue of the loan sharks. Did you ever borrow money from someone named Francis? Jeff gave me a sheepish look. Yeah. Why? I got 2 threats. Once from a guy with a scruffy beard. The other time from some big guy with a knife. Jeff let out a short laugh. Francis, Frankie, shouldn't be bothering you. I paid him back last week. And it was just $300. He probably thought I was avoiding him. Which, to be fair, I kind of was. So, the bearded guy was Frankie? Yep. Wears Abercrombie like its designer. I nodded slowly. Then who was the guy with the knife? He said his name was Mallory. Jeff's face twisted in confusion, then realization. He had his brother threaten you? My jaw dropped. Mallory is his brother? Half-brother, Jeff clarified. That's why they don't look anything alike. Mallory's mom passed away during childbirth. Their dad remarried and had Malone. Hence the incredibly similar names. Honestly, I'm surprised you didn't put that together sooner. So, when Malone said he was, another realization clicked into place. Malone knew everything. It wasn't coincidence. If Francis had approached him about the debt, Malone could have used that situation, maybe even told Mallory to confront me. And then, conveniently, Malone showed up just in time to save me. It would explain how he knew exactly where I was, and why I had trusted him so completely afterward. I felt numb. Everything I thought I knew about the last 2 weeks suddenly seemed like a performance. A well-executed illusion. The warmth, the comfort, the intimacy, how much of it had been real? Jeff didn't say anything. He just looked at me with quiet sympathy. Maybe it was the twin connection, or maybe he just understood. Either way, I appreciated the silence. Still, how did he know I'd be at the aquarium that day? He threatened you there? That's serious. There are a few ways he could have known. He might have followed you. Or, he could have tracked your phone. There are apps for that kind of thing now. I pulled out my phone, my fingers trembling slightly. There was no way. I scrolled through my apps, and then I saw something I'd never installed. My stomach dropped. I opened it. GPS related. Oh no. He had been tracking me. No wonder my battery had been draining faster than usual. I rarely used my phone before, barely needed to charge it. But lately it was dying all the time. And Malone. He had so many chances to do this. I often left my phone lying around at his place or in the hotel rooms we'd met in. It all made sense now, especially after I'd told him I was staying with Swash. That must have been when he installed it. I looked up at Jeff, dread sinking deep into my chest. Now I understood why he was so scared. Malone wasn't just controlling. He was dangerous. What do? I whispered. How did you get away from him? I felt too overwhelmed to think clearly. But Jeff, he'd survived this. Maybe he knew the way out. You remember the money I borrowed from Francis? Jeff asked. That was for a restraining order. Of course, Francis didn't know that. He even asked why I hadn't borrowed it from my boyfriend. I think he went to confront Malone about it. So, what do? Another restraining order. Jeff paused. Do you have anything tying you to Chicago? Family? Someone close? All my friends are here, I said quietly. You're not saying I should just leave, are you? That might be your only option, Mike. I'm sorry. But you're still here. Wouldn't he just come after you too? Wait, why hasn't he come after you? Jeff didn't answer right away. He turned toward Jason. I followed his gaze and saw that Jason's expression had shifted. No longer just angry, but a mixture of fury and helplessness. I watched them closely until it hit me. Oh, Jason, my voice caught. I'm so sorry. They said I was on someone else's turf, Jason muttered. Can you believe that? Then, they attacked me. Jeff's voice was soft. Just because Malone can't hurt you directly doesn't mean he won't find other ways to reach you. He walked over to Jason and gently lifted the back of his shirt. A large medical bandage covered most of Jason's back. I remembered what Jeff had told me before, that the attackers carved something cruel into him to make it look like a hate crime. No wonder Jason was so furious. But with no solid proof Malone was behind it, there were no charges to press. If Jason fought back now, it would only look like he was the aggressor. Do you understand now? Jeff asked. This is why I'm saying you need to get away. I don't have anywhere to go, I said. I can't just vanish. You'd rather stay and keep living like this? I couldn't answer. I stared at the floor, feeling the weight of it all crashing down. He was right. There was no other way. Even if I ran to Swash's place. Malone already had the address. That GPS app had probably been tracking me for weeks. And Swash's place? It wasn't exactly a fortress. Then I thought of Bradley. I couldn't put him at risk. If Malone could do this to Jason, Bradley, kind-hearted, trusting Bradley, was in even more danger. I had to leave. Maybe back to Springfield. I hadn't been there in over 3 years, and I had no idea what to expect, but it was the only place I could go. I knew the streets. I could figure it out. If I'd moved to Chicago with nothing and managed to survive this long, I could survive starting over again. I nodded faintly, my decision made. Be careful out there, Jeff said, giving me a small, tired smile. It was like he could sense I had chosen. I tried to smile back, but my heart felt heavy. If Jeff hadn't come today, if he hadn't told me the truth, I might have moved in with Malone within a month. Maybe less. But now all I felt was fear. And anger. Everything else, every good moment, every connection, faded away. Jason and Jeff said they needed to head out. I didn't ask where. I welcomed the silence. Being alone actually felt safer now. Jason left without another word. His anger still simmered beneath the surface. Jeff paused at the door and placed a hand gently on my shoulder. "Be careful how you handle him, Mike," he said quietly. "Malone's unpredictable. Avoid any direct confrontation. And if things go south, just run. Don't try to fight back. Just get away." I nodded numbly, watching him leave and lock the door behind him. The rest of my day passed like a blur. Time slipped by without meaning. I spoke when spoken to, but barely registered what I was saying. My mind was elsewhere, focused only on what I had to do. I'd pack tonight. Tomorrow morning, I'd withdraw all my money. And by noon, I'd be out of Chicago. No one else could get hurt because of me. I had to end this. At 11:35 p.m., I left Dorian's apartment and headed home. I knew I was leaving earlier than expected, but I didn't care. My safety mattered more than any late-night plans someone might have had for me. I called a cab after waiting a while and rode home in silence. I watched the city blur past, disconnected from it all. I barely noticed when the driver said we'd arrived. I paid him and walked toward my building, still in a haze. My life had fallen apart in less than 2 weeks. I fumbled for my keys as I approached the door. "Hey!" I froze. The voice hit me like a shockwave. I turned slowly and saw the face I feared most. "Malone, I've been waiting for you all day. Ready to go." I blinked several times, staring at Malone. My instincts screamed at me to run, to get away. Maybe I could make it to the apartment before he reached me. But Jeff's words echoed in my mind, "Avoid confrontation. He's unpredictable." I swallowed my fear and forced myself to stay calm. Even if Malone had tracked me here, he couldn't have known who I met with or what we discussed. I steadied my breath and tried to match his energy. "Yeah," I said, aiming for casual. "It's been a long, boring day. I could use something different." He chuckled and motioned to the car. "Just stay calm, Michael. Do what he expects. Leave in the morning, quietly." I climbed into the car and buckled my seatbelt, willing myself to look natural. "You seem a little off today," he said, eyeing me. "Just tired," I replied. "I've been thinking about you all day." That wasn't a complete lie. It just wasn't the kind of thinking he'd want to hear about. "I've been thinking about you too." I planned a little surprise. "What, you got me a car?" I joked, keeping my voice light. Malone laughed. It didn't comfort me. His reactions were impossible to read now. Was he amused or just pretending? The rest of the drive passed in silence. He tried to start a conversation, but I only gave short answers. I couldn't bring myself to sit too close to him. I followed behind as we entered the house, careful not to let my discomfort show. "Hey, relax a little," he said. "I'm just anxious. I quit today. No job bills stacking up. It's a lot." "It'll work out," he said, touching my arm. "I'm glad you quit though. I didn't like you working around so many people." "Well, I guess I'm all yours now." I couldn't even muster a smile. If he noticed how flat my tone was, he didn't show it. He went into the kitchen and returned with a bottle of whiskey and 2 glasses. "I know you're not technically old enough, but I figured this might help you unwind." He poured us both a drink and handed me the larger glass. I hesitated but saw him down his own without hesitation. I followed suit, the liquid burning down my throat. My limbs began to warm slightly, my anxiety dulling, just a bit. Malone leaned in and kissed me. I let him. I even tried to respond, hoping to keep up the illusion. But I couldn't pretend to enjoy it. My mind was somewhere else. I was tired, afraid, and pretending to feel something I didn't. He climbed on top of me and kissed my neck, his hands moving under my shirt. I lay there stiffly, trying not to react. I couldn't take it anymore. I gently pushed him off and sat up. He looked surprised, then concerned. "What's wrong?" "I'm just not in the mood tonight." "You've been distant all evening. Is it something I did?" "No, I just..." I don't feel up to it. I can let you take the lead if that helps. It's not about control. I'm sorry, I just need some space. Without realizing it, I had taken a few steps back. He noticed. It's him, isn't it? What? I saw you with him yesterday. Don't lie to me. I saw you kiss him. My heart stopped. Swash. The goodbye hug. The kiss on the cheek. He must have seen it. Of course he had been watching. Oh, that? It's not what you think. Swash and I are just friends. Swash? That's his name now? I thought you said his name was Jeremy. I froze. I had slipped. I had told him a different name before. Malone's expression changed. His eyes darkened. He looked calm on the outside, but there was fury just below the surface. I turned and bolted for the front door. It was locked. He'd removed the key. Slowly he followed me. My heart pounded. I couldn't go for the back door, he was in that direction. So, I ran upstairs, realizing too late that I had cornered myself. The only room with a lock was the bathroom. I rushed inside and slammed the door shut, locking it just as he reached the top of the stairs. You'll have to come out eventually, Michael, he said through the door, his voice eerily calm. I backed into the corner. He was right, I had trapped myself. I reached for my phone. It wasn't in my pocket. Did I leave it at the station? Or in the cab? I couldn't remember. Did he love you like I do? Malone asked from outside. Did he want you the same way? You never wanted me, I shouted back. You were never honest. I loved you, Michael. No, you love Jeff. Don't pretend otherwise. He's my twin. You think I didn't figure it out? There was silence. Then Malone muttered, more to himself than me, so you've met him. I said nothing. My heart was racing. There was no way out. Open the door, Michael. Please. We can talk this out. I don't believe you. But I believe in us. Whoever this Swash guy is, I know what we had was real. Let's fix this. Go away. My voice cracked. I was shaking. His tone turned. Open the door now. He started ramming into it. The frame cracked. I screamed. On the third hit, the door flew open. Malone stepped inside. Did you really think you could betray me and walk away? I didn't betray you. We weren't even a real couple. You lied too many times. I can't trust you. He grabbed me by the neck. I gasped, struggling to breathe. His expression was blank, emotionless. He meant to hurt me. I panicked. Summoning what strength I had, I kicked him as hard as I could. He fell to the ground in pain. I ran. Down the stairs. Toward the back door. But, I needed keys. I searched the kitchen, opening drawers and cabinets, desperate. No luck. Then I heard it, the sound of glass breaking. I turned. Malone was in the doorway, holding a jagged bottle. I'm going to make sure you never lied to me again. I ducked behind the kitchen counter. He lunged. I dodged and ran around to the other side, making a break for the front door. I banged on it with both fists. Help. Somebody help. Malone stalked me from behind, glass in hand. I kicked the door, hoping it might give. But it was no use. You can't break it. It opens inward, he said with a twisted smile. I collapsed against the door. I thought it was the end. Tears welled up. My entire body trembled. He raised the bottle, ready to strike. Suddenly, the front door burst open from the other side. The force knocked me forward. I crashed into Malone, sending him sprawling. The bottle flew from his hand. Before I could react, he scrambled over me and began to strike. You couldn't love me? But I gave you everything. But we were meant to be. But my vision blurred as Malone struck me again and again. The door slammed, hard, and suddenly he stopped. He turned, distracted by something. Whoever was outside was hitting the door with enough force to crack the frame. I'd felt that door before. It was solid. The next impact blew it open. I couldn't see who it was. Malone was blocking my view, but he stepped forward to confront the person, and then I heard it, a sharp, sickening crack. A punch landed with precision, and Malone twisted midair before hitting the ground. I looked up through watery, bloodshot eyes. Jason, they're here. It was my voice, but I barely recognized it. Jeff stood beside me, panting from exertion. The room lit up with flashing red and blue lights. The police had arrived. The wave of relief hit me so hard, I couldn't hold back the tears. This time they came from safety, not fear. Jeff knelt and gently pulled me into his arms. His voice was a soft whisper against the chaos around us. "Shh, it's okay now. You're safe." I buried my face in his chest, crying freely. His hand moved slowly across my back, comforting me. I turned and hugged him tightly. "I knew you were in trouble," he said into my ear. "I always know. I can feel it." I didn't argue. He was right. The police took Malone into custody, gathered statements from all three of us, and secured the broken bottle and blood evidence at the scene. Jeff had a restraining order and a timeline that backed up every word of our story. With everything they had, Malone was charged with attempted murder, carrying a sentence nearly as heavy as the real thing. That night, I stayed at Jeff's house. I couldn't be alone, not after what happened. Jeff remained in Parkview, which explained why Jason had been close by when everything went down. Jason stayed too. They both made sure I felt safe. Jeff was especially gentle. There was something familiar about the way he held me, the way he looked at me. It was as if we had always known each other. And even though my head said we'd only met the day before, my heart wasn't so sure. Later, Jason said goodnight and took the couch. Jeff guided me to the bedroom. We lay side by side. Nothing about it felt strange. In fact, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. "Hey," Jeff whispered, his voice barely audible. "Are you getting the same feeling I am?" "What do you mean?" I asked, not turning, but very aware of his presence. "It's like déjà vu. Like we've done this before." I didn't know what to say, but I felt it too. That night I had a dream, though it felt more like a memory. Jeff and I were playing in front of a house with a large green lawn. The sunlight cast long shadows across the grass, hinting that it was nearly sunset. We couldn't have been older than 3. We were laughing, chasing a bright purple frisbee. At one point, one of us tackled the other, though I couldn't tell who was who. We lay in the grass, breathless and giggling, holding hands as we looked up at the glowing clouds. They moved slowly across a sky painted in soft orange and purple hues. All we had was each other and a purple frisbee. And it was enough. Over the next 3 weeks, I attended every court hearing. Malone was sentenced to 25 years in prison without parole. Our testimonies, combined with the evidence, left little room for doubt. I never recovered my old phone. Pretty sure I left it in the cab that night. I bought a new one and reconnected with some close friends from the station. They were concerned, but I assured them I was doing better. I started a job at a diner down the road to cover bills while Heather went on maternity leave. It felt good to work with familiar faces. Bridget was a little strict at first, but once I found my rhythm, she eased up. They even added the Mikey to the menu, a small nod that made me feel a little proud. Life felt normal. And I needed that. Even though I kept my distance from friends for a while, not because they did anything wrong, I just needed space to figure myself out. "Hey, what can I get you?" I asked. "Mikey," they chorused in unison. I groaned playfully. "You know there are other things on the menu, right?" "We like the Mikey," Alex said with a grin. "Still can't believe they named it after you." "It's a good combo," Emmett added. "Can I swap the blueberries for strawberries?" "Sure. Maybe we can call it the Emmy," he joked. "Wait." I laughed, jotting down the orders and heading to the kitchen. They told me visiting the diner was the only way they could see me lately. I was working longer hours, trying to get ahead. It was tiring, but I didn't mind. As I slumped into a chair in the kitchen to rest my aching feet, Heather sat beside me. "Are those your friends out there? The one with the shaggy hair is kinda cute." "Careful," I warned with a smile. His boyfriend might have strong opinions about that. She laughed. "You all are so dramatic." The bell above the front door chimed. 11:31 a.m. Technically, I had the day off, but I came in anyway, hoping for extra tips. Bridget didn't mind, but insisted I be out by noon. I took off my name tag and slipped on my jacket. "I'm leaving early," I told Bridget as she cleared a table. "But Get some rest, she said. You're burning out. Rent doesn't pay itself, I joked. Still, take care of yourself. As I walked toward the exit, Alex and Emmett waved me over. Off the clock already? I wasn't even supposed to be here, I said, stealing a bite of Emmett's waffle. Hey, I paid for that. And I created it, I teased. Whose name is on the menu? They laughed. We chatted a bit. Turns out, they were planning to get married in the spring. Dorian offered to host in New York so he and Bates could attend. Emmett was excited, though he complained about the costs. Alex didn't care where it happened, as long as it was with Emmett. Even a Walmart would do. It made me laugh. After lunch, we said goodbye. I promised to stay in better touch. Back home, I sorted laundry, finally. I barely had time for chores lately. As I loaded my clothes into a duffel bag, my phone rang. Unknown caller. Hello. Michael. The voice was familiar. Yeah, who's this? Nathan gave me this number. I've been trying to reach you. Where have you been? Who is this? Swash. My heart skipped a beat. Of all the people I had quietly distanced myself from, Swash was near the top of the list. Mike, are you there? Yeah, I replied softly. I heard what happened. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault, I said. But, what do you want? I want to see you. Bradley wants to see you. You never visited like you promised. I rubbed my eye, sighing. Swash, maybe it's best if you forget about me. What? Why? Because this, whatever it was between us, it's not going to work. He fell silent. Can I just see you? Please? I've been worried. Find someone who can love you the way you deserve, I said gently. I don't have anything left to give. Goodbye, Swash. I ended the call and exhaled. I wasn't ready for complications. I wasn't ready for love. I just wanted peace. Swash had a beautiful life, an amazing son. He didn't need someone like me holding him back. I grabbed the laundry bag, turned off the lights, and opened the door. I stepped outside and bumped right into someone. Startled, I looked up. Moss green eyes. Swash. I froze. Took a deep breath. You've got to be kidding me. Thanks for listening to today's BL story. If it made your heart skip a beat, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Only here on BL Stories, where love knows no limits.